Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fundamental question. How did the simple daily act of just finding food end up shaping the modern human mind?
When we think about what made us human, our minds usually jump to these huge milestones, right? Like walking upright or discovering fire. But what if the real engine behind our smarts and our societies was something way more basic? Just the daily grind for calories. Turns out, how our ancestors got their dinner is directly tied to how we think, how we work together, and how we create. So, let's get into it.
All right, here's the plan. We're going to walk through 4 key stages. First, we'll look at the big difference between foraging and gathering. Then, we'll jump into the high-stakes world of scavenging. After that, we'll see how we became the planet's top predator. And finally, we'll connect all those dots to see what it means for us today. Okay, so our story really starts with this first huge shift in how we found food. I mean, this was a move that laid the groundwork for everything we call society.
So first up, we have foraging. This is about as basic as it gets. You're wandering around, you see something you can eat, and you eat it, right there on the spot. It's totally an individual thing. Super efficient for a quick bite, but that's about it. It's basically a non-stop solo snack run.
But this is where things get really interesting, the jump to gathering. See, this wasn't just about finding food anymore. It was about bringing it back. Gathering meant you had to carry that food to some kind of home base where it could be processed and, crucially, shared with the group. It sounds simple, but that one little change, wow, it required a massive leap in how we thought. And you can really see the difference here. We went from this eat-as-you-go solo mission to a full-blown cooperative system. A system built around a home base and not eating everything right away. You're not just feeding yourself anymore. You're actually planning for the whole group. That takes foresight. It takes trust. It takes logistics.
And the impact of this was just huge. I mean, gathering completely changed our social worlds. All of a sudden, you needed a home base, a place to come back to. It kickstarted food sharing and the division of labor. It even pushed technology forward. I mean, you can't carry a bunch of berries without some kind of bag or container, right? The home base became the heart of social life, the spot for sharing food, swapping stories, and building real bonds.
So plants were the foundation for sure. But to power up the most energy-guzzling organ we have, our brain, our ancestors needed something more. And that led them down a new path. A really dangerous one, but one with a massive payoff. Now, scavenging wasn't something that just happened overnight. It was a slow burn, an evolution in both guts and smarts. It probably started out as casual scavenging, just picking at the leftovers after a lion was finished. Then it leveled up to systematic scavenging, actively looking for carcasses, maybe by watching vultures in the sky. And then the final boss level, meat robbing. Actually walking up to a pack of predators and trying to seal their fresh kill, the ultimate gamble. So you have to ask, why on earth would they take those kinds of risks? Well, because the prize was huge. Meat and bone marrow are packed with calories and protein. They're like rocket fuel for the body, and especially for a growing, complex brain. Honestly, without that high-energy food source, the huge cognitive leaps that came next, they might have never happened at all. Look, our ancestors weren't the biggest or the fastest things out on the savannah. Not by a long shot. So how did they pull this off? Brains, not brawn. They figured out that working together meant they could outnumber their rivals. They developed bluffing tactics, making a ton of noise, acting big and scary. They used simple stuff like throwing rocks, not really to hurt, but to intimidate. And you can bet that using fire aggressively, well, that would have been a total game changer. It let them scare off even the scariest predators. Okay, so stealing meat was a big step. But the next great leap? Getting it for ourselves. And this is where we see that critical shift from being a scavenger to becoming a hunter. Let's be clear, an early human could never, ever outrun a gazelle in a sprint. No way. But they had a secret weapon, endurance. It's called persistence hunting. It's a crazy strategy where you don't have to be faster than your prey. You just have to last longer. You just keep it moving, never letting it rest, until it literally collapses from heat exhaustion. It's not a race of speed, it's a battle of pure stamina.
And what's so cool, no pun intended, is that our own bodies were perfectly built for this. Think about it. A big, furry animal running in the midday sun is going to overheat pretty fast. But us, with our relatively hairless bodies and our amazing ability to sweat, we could stay cool. We had this incredible advantage. We could literally outcool our dinner.
And of course, this new hunting style came with a ton of new tech. It was like a cognitive arms race. We went from simple clubs and throwing rocks to spears with fire-hardened tips. Then we leveled up again to spears with sharp stone or bone points, and eventually to advanced stuff like the spear thrower, which gave us way more range and power. But here's the key. This isn't just a story about better tools. It's a story about a mind that was getting better and better at planning, designing, and creating. And just look at this, the evolution of the hand axe. It's the perfect picture of that link between tool and thought. You can see how over hundreds of thousands of years, they get more and more symmetrical, more refined. That's not an accident. That shows a mind that could picture a finished product, an abstract idea, and then figure out all the steps to actually make it. That's incredible.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground, right? We've gone from gathering plants to scavenging meat to becoming expert hunters. So for this last part, let's pull it all together and really look at how all those ancient challenges built the very minds we have today.
This quote just nails it. It says that the brain that figured out all that hunter-gatherer stuff is the same brain that today deals with things like modern math and physics. Think about that. The intellectual toolkit we built for pure survival is the very same one we use for our biggest modern achievements. The kind of abstract thinking you'd need to track an animal across a huge landscape, that's the same kind of logic an engineer uses to write code or an architect uses to design a building. This table really breaks it down nicely. Gathering, that's where we learned cooperation, sharing, and built the social bonds that make us who we are. Scavenging, that taught us how to assess risks, how to be brave, and how to work as a team under intense pressure. And hunting, that supercharged our ability to plan ahead, to innovate with technology, and to really understand our environment. Each strategy was like adding a new, powerful layer to what it means to be human. So let's recap the big takeaways here. Number 1, cooperative gathering is what laid the foundation for society and culture. It turned me into we. Number 2, high-risk scavenging provided that critical rocket fuel our brains needed to get bigger and smarter. And number 3, active hunting is what really pushed our minds to become the incredible planning and problem-solving tools they are today. And that just leaves us with one last thing to think about. When you see a team working on a complex project, or an entrepreneur taking a calculated risk, or an inventor coming up with a new piece of tech, they're not really doing something brand new. They're tapping into a legacy of survival instincts that were sharpened over millions of years. So the big question is, how do those ancient drives for cooperation, for taking risks, for innovating, still shape pretty much everything we do in our modern world?